Look guys, out of the 8 eggs that we had in the incubator, 6 have hatched so far, and here, welcome our new addition to the Wildwood Wonder Homestead, Golden Buff Orpingtons. We got the incubator out of the shed and cleaned it up, so I took some vinegar and scrubbed it up real good because it was just stained from past hatchings. This is an egg turner, so it turns the eggs for me and I don't have to remember. So I made sure that when we actually bought this one that it went ahead and had an egg turner because everybody told me to just go ahead and get one. And you set it up on a timer and it just automatically turns. So for the actual chicken eggs, I think there's different turn rates for like turkeys and all that kind of stuff. Quail eggs do not sit well in this one, and it's just a waste of time on quail eggs. So we did figure that one out, our first quail hatch. And then the bottom there, that little grid, it's just like a metal tray, like little grid. It's for when they start hatching. So before they hatch, you take your eggs out and you take this out. It comes out completely, and then they sit on the grid, and then they hatch out, and it keeps them safe and still with that moisture and warm and all that good jazz. So I gotta sit this on top of there. It's gonna go on here. I also have to put water inside of it and keep it moist. This is the heat element, so that's what keeps them warm, and then you keep up with your temperature and the heat, so off of there. And then these are just little vents to let it out and just keep the water. And so my plan is, so I don't mess it up this time, is I'm going to time Alexa. I'm going to get her to, she turned on, of course. I'm going to get her to keep up a timer for me to remind me throughout the day since I'm going to be home. And then it is in Critter Corner. So Critter Corner, I learned that if I went ahead and put our critters all in one spot and in the main spot in which we go all the time and go by, I look in on them every single time I walk by here, and so that way I can make sure everybody's okay. So the fish are okay, the hermit crab's okay, and the hamster's okay. So hopefully at the same time I'll check and make sure the eggs are okay. Looked up my times and days. Okay, so when I put the eggs in there, I'm going to do my start date. So for the first 18 days, the temperature has to be from 101 to 102, the humidity 28 to 50%, and they're going to get turned 3 times a day, okay? And then on that 19th day, I have to stop turning them, and humidity goes up to 70%. So watching the temp is going up. If it gets too hot, then I'll lower it. And then once it's regulated for a while, for about 6 hours, then I'm going to put the eggs in there. And so I'm pretty sure I'm just going to like tear this out and tape it on there so that I remember. So it'd be so much easier. So I'm just going to tear that out of this notebook. So, and put it on there, and hopefully I can do this right. And I've done it before. It's just been a while. It's been probably 3 years since I personally have sat there and was 100% responsible for the incubator. So I can do it again. It's all right. I can get it done. Okay, so the eggs are in there this morning. Pulled them out. We have got 8, and temperature is about at 99 where it's supposed to be. I had to change it. I didn't realize this was a fan version, so once I lifted the top and I realized that's what was going on, I did change my temp. So 99 to 100, that's what we got. And then this does the humidity, and so it has to be between 28 and 50%. And so it's just a, 33 maybe? So doing good. They're turning, the turner's working. I've noticed it's moved because last night it was like this. So we're going to take the eggs out of the turner and lay them flat, and we're going to up the humidity to 70%. Oh, I did forget to turn the turner off. You're right. I gotta turn the turner off. So the eggs are getting closer. I've changed it to, we're supposed to, June 6th, we took the thing out, right? Humidity at 70%, 100. I really thought I cooked them yesterday, y'all. I came in here and it was super cold. Like, this was over here and the humidity was way over here. I was like, oh my goodness, how did I mess it up? So I had to turn it up. I had to pour some water in it. I've been using this. Pour the water in it, and this little thing comes out. And everything I've read is like, don't mess with the incubator. Don't open it at all costs. The humidity is really important. And then I come in a little while later, and it's way too hot. It's way over here, and the humidity is way over here. And I almost cried. I'm not even gonna lie. I was about in tears. I was like, I've spent this whole time trying to make sure these eggs hatch, and now it's not gonna happen because I've messed it up.
Was it this one?
Huh?
Was it this one?
Yes, this is the one that's moving. But this morning, I keep looking at them just to check, and they'll start moving, and that's how you know they're gonna hatch. And I thought I saw this one move, and then nothing happened for a long time. I was like, well, maybe it was just me trying, imagination. And then a little while later, I thought I saw it move again. And then it didn't do anything. And this kept on all morning long until this afternoon. He has been really teetering back and forth. So I figure he's going to be the first one to hatch over here. The rest of them, I'm just kind of watching. I think every once in a while I see them move. And so we should have some chicks either tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to say tomorrow probably. So, okay, so we hear chirping. Just been listening to him chirp. We got one on that side that is cracking and he's pecking through. And this one has started pecking through right there. And then this is the one that's been moving, and I thought he was going to hatch first, but I guess I'm mistaken, and he hasn't moved lately, and I'm a little worried about him, actually. I'm trying not to get too worried. The other one has been chipped off since this morning, and I'm a little worried about him, too. But, I heard it, too. Maybe it showed up. But they're chirping in their eggs, and they're communicating with mom, and mom would communicate with them, and they communicate with each other. And what's really cool is, if you think about it, the chicken lays these eggs on different days. So one chicken, these are 8 different eggs, then she may lay on 8. Well, it took 8 days to lay those eggs, but they will all hatch at the same time. So how cool is that? So they're all going to hatch at the same time. Never mind, one was laid 8 days before the rest of them. And that is nature's awesomeness, is that way mama doesn't have to leave the rest of the eggs to take care of this baby, and the babies can all be born together and get the same care.
This one's alone.
And take care. Yeah, it is alone. It rolled over there. But these chicks are also okay for, I think it's 48 hours. They don't have to have food or water, so that way it gives time for their brothers and sisters to hatch before mama takes them out. So luckily for us, we just got to make sure once they're out that they get dry and everything.
okay. It's gonna.
Let me hold
That's how
it.
they get out. No, no, he has to stay in there and dry.
Can I hold him tomorrow?
Hmm?
Can I hold him tomorrow? He has no
If they're
feathers.
dry.
He
Yeah,
has no
they're on there. They're just wet. He has to get out of his egg.
Tomorrow
And
I'm
all
holding
these
him first thing in the morning.
Other one's
I
about
knew
to
I
hatch
heard
out.
something over there. First thing.
I know. I should have.
Still trying to get
Alright guys, so I am set up here in my kitchen, and one of the reasons that I did that is because I'm big in having my chicks around me in the house, okay? I'm not going to say that that's always going to be the case. If we really get into incubating eggs and egg hatching eggs and raising them, that may change. I may actually move outside and we may have an outside brooder, but for the time in our lives right here on our homestead, we are just doing very minimum what we have to do for our meat chickens, and that was a totally different setup than this, and I encourage you to go watch that video if that's something that you're interested in learning about, the Cornish cross and brooding them and raising them. That's a whole different story than egg layers, so I'm going to link that up here. Follow that link. But if you are just wanting a couple of egg layers, okay, this is for you. This video is for you, just to go through simple steps, because they are different than those Cornish cross and those Red Rangers, okay? So, let's talk about what you need and what you need to do before you even get your chicks, right? You have to set up a brooder. The brooder is important, and you need to have everything set up. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you are getting your chicks in the mail and you order them from a hatchery, okay, they will be coming and they will notify you, hey, they're going to be here on this day. So before that day, the day before they're supposed to get here, you need to have your brooder set up and ready, because when you order them in the mail, you have to go straight to the post office right then. You do not need to let them sit there all day. That's a huge no-no. You need to go as soon as they call you, and usually what happens is they call you really early in the morning and say, hey, I got a box of chirping chicks, and you need to leave. You need to go pick them up. We have picked them up at 6 o'clock in the morning before. Sometimes it's a little later, but most of the time it is definitely like at 10-ish, I think is the latest I've ever picked up chicks. Then if you get them from Tractor Supply or a feed store, you still need to have your brooder set up before you bring your chicks home, okay? If you are incubating them in an incubator for the first time and you haven't ever set up a brooder, as soon as they start cracking those eggs, your brooder needs to be lamp on, ready to go, okay? So let's go over what you need for your brooder setup. Number one, you're going to need some type of container to put your chicks in, okay? So, if you are doing inside, now I'm going to say this is for inside brooding for a small number of chicks, okay? Our meat chickens, we are doing 40, 50 at a time. We use a huge watering trough for that, okay? Where there's lots of room for them to move. There's a lot of chicks in there, and they need a big space that they can move around in, okay? And that takes up a lot. I only have, if they all hatch, 8, okay? So there's only 8 chicks. And they're not meat chickens. They're not going to grow as fast. They are egg layers, okay? So these 8 egg layers are going to stay small, and for the first 2 weeks, they don't need a lot of space, okay? They can actually function very well in smaller spaces. So here are your different brooder options. I have seen people do it in big, huge cardboard boxes. That's okay. Okay, so you can have a cardboard box. You can buy a little brooder kit at your feed store or on Amazon or Tractor Supply, and all it is it's got like the, imagine the sides of those political signs, or if you have one from school, like, hey, my kid's an A student, and you get one of those signs, that's what it's made out of, and it comes into kind of like an octagon shape, and you just set it up, and it has a little pole on it that holds your light. I don't like those because of the bottom. I feel like you're constantly cleaning them, and they're hard to function, and then I have to move my chicks into something else, so they're not my preferred method. So you got those two. You can get a tote like this that's round, and I'm just going to go through that. Or you can use a regular storage tote. So I have two different options, and I've set up this one first, and I'm going to go through it and what it looks like inside this box, and then I'll go through the round one. I'm actually taking mine out of this to put into this one, okay? And I'll tell you why in a second.
Okay, guys, so here is just a temporary setup that I had to do before I could get my round tote fixed up, and I thought it would be a good example to show you guys who don't have something like this, and you could just use a storage tote. And I'll tell you what I like about it and what I don't like about it. This tote, what I really like about it is it's deep, okay, and it's long, but what we don't like about it is it's not wide. All right, so the sides get a little warm. They are kind of thin, but it's not super hot. It's not melting, okay? So that's not what I'm concerned about. But it does give them enough room. As you can see, they're sleeping right now. If you're not used to baby chicks and it takes a little while for you to get used to them, they lay down, especially like boop, this one. They lay down like that and you get real worried because you're scared that something's not right. But they're absolutely okay. They're just real relaxed, okay? And see how he's stretching out his little leg? He's okay. He's fine. So these are healthy chicks right now. Alright, the thing about one of these boxes, though, is they have square sides. You see these squares? Okay, these little corners of square sides. Square corners, guys. What will happen, especially if you have a lot of chicks, they will bunch up in a corner to either get cool or to get really warm. And when they bunch up in a corner, they tend to suffocate each other, okay? So you'll have one that will get stuck in that very corner. They will all pile on top of it, and then the next day or a little while later, you realize what happened. So you really don't want these sharp corners. So in this case, I had some cardboard. So if you have a tote like this and that's all you have to use, then you could possibly take this cardboard like I did and just kind of make it not as sharp, okay? So this is a little bit more rounded. And that's going to help you keep them from bunching up. So that's an idea, and I just like bent it to fit the edge, okay? And then let's go to this one. So this one is a round one. They can't get stuck in a corner, which is why I'm switching them to this one. They can't get stuck in a corner, so I don't have to worry about them sitting on each other and getting suffocated, all right? This does look a little bit smaller, but I've measured it out, and it's going to be about equal space. Like I said, they don't need a lot of space, so they can fit over here. It is also deep. Why do I like it deep? Well, that's because of this.
Okay, so why do I like my totes to be super deep? Well, you are going to need bedding material, and my favorite is cedar shavings. And I think I read a long time ago in like a forum or something, and they were against cedar shavings, and I really don't know why. Because I love cedar shavings. It cuts down on the smell, and I haven't had any chicken whatsoever chick that has been bothered by it. So I can't quite remember, and I'm not wasting my time to go look it up because personally, I like the cedar shavings, and they work for us. I love the way that they smell. They cut down on the smell. And what we do is, and you just get them at the feed store, Walmart, pet store, or Tractor Supply, if that's where you're going. So this whole bag for egg layers is going to last us the whole time, and we'll probably have some left over. Meat chickens, we go through about 2 bags. But what I do is a deep litter method. So we put the first round, and when it's really, it's stinky and it needs to have fresh shavings, I just add to it. And I keep doing that, and I keep doing that, okay? And then, like I said, egg layers, they do not, y'all, my bagel's ready. Egg layers, they don't make a mess like meat birds. I'm not having to do that all the time. Meat birds, I have to give them fresh shavings
every day, and they get really stinky. So we would actually have to dump that water trough and then have to start over. But the egg layers, I'm not gonna have to. Like, I just have to do it every once in a while, then the next one, next one, next one. All of that they are putting their waste on is going to go into the compost pile. Okay, so it's just going to make compost, make more soil, and work for us. So that's that. You want things to work for you, right? Not against you. And so that's one of those cool things with that deep litter method is it's just all piled up, and then when it's time, we just take it all down to the compost, and then later on it's going to break down, become soil for us to use in our garden. So that's what we're doing there. So you must have water and food. So you're going to need a watering, okay, trough, container. These are for chicks, okay? So these are for chicken chicks. If you have a smaller breed like a silky or a bantam that's really tiny, those chicks are small, then you can actually buy a smaller one than this that has a tiny little rim around it that's also great for quail. That's what you want to get, because the problem is your little bantams and your silkies will get in here, and unfortunately they can drown. We had an incident like that before I could get the rocks in there and stuff, we had one that got in there, and that was pretty sad. So you can put rocks in there, you can put marbles in here. If you can't get to a small one or you can't find one, put rocks and marbles. These chicks are big enough, I don't have to worry about them getting in there doing that. You need to already have your water in your brooder. So as soon as you put your chicks in there, you're going to dip their beaks in it, and that lets them know where the water is. They're smart. Okay, so what I do, guys, and I'm just going to try to do this gently because I've already showed them. So he's probably like, why are you doing this? But you're just going to gently hold your chick like this, and you're going to dip. See, he is not happy. He's like, what are you doing? Let me get one of these. Maybe a little calmer. And you're just going to gently dip their beak in the water like that. You don't want to dip them too far. They have nostrils up there, and you don't want to drown them. You don't want to dip their whole beak in there because you're sticking water up their nose, okay? So very gently. They're super smart, and they realize what you're doing, because that's what Mama would have done too, was show them, like, show them where the water is, and they're going to know from now on. Now, as the deep leader goes up, I'll add a brick underneath it. So I put a half of a brick underneath there, and I sit the water on there, and the brick will just keep going if I need to, along with the shavings. So that way you can kind of see a shaving in there. If they get super messy, which egg layers aren't that bad, they may have one or two, but meat chickens, yeah, they're all the time throwing stuff in there, so I have to raise it up. You see, he found his food. After I dip their beaks in the water, I come over here and I show him the food, and I do this. And I start moving it, and I start pecking on it, acting kind of like a mama chicken would if it was like, scratching and pecking through there and showing them. And they're super smart. They pick up on what you're doing. They're like, oh. And so that's what you do with their food. Guys, they're going to know to go back to that place to go get their water. You need to have a feeder. These little feeders have individual little holes in them. So each chick can go in there and feed, and they're going to have to wait and take their time. And this keeps them from, like, flicking the feed out, all right? So you kind of want that there because it's like a guard that's going to keep them from flicking the feed out. Now, you're going to have an option of plastic or metal. Personally, I hate these things. They are awful. They're horrible to clean. It's really hard to get in there and clean anything. And then if they do come apart, you feel like you're going to cut your finger off. And we have sliced ourselves before on our fingers, especially the long metal trays. We hate those. We don't buy anything metal anymore. So these are no-nos. So I'm just going to, I don't care if you get them for 50 cents. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to want it. Because they're awful. So avoid. Just go with the plastic. And if this is something that you're going to do quite often, I have learned to keep 2 of everything. Because for some reason, when I use one of them, or it ends up somewhere else, then I need another one. Like, it never fails. Like, whenever I don't have what I need, or it's being occupied by something else, turns out I needed another one. So it might be helpful if you're going to do this and this is something that you enjoy doing. Go ahead and invest in these and get you 2 of each. Number 4, you need to have a heat lamp that is made for brooders and extra bulbs. So here is our heat light set up right for here. We have had different things. If you had the big trough, you could hook it up to the side of it. It's sturdy enough, it's wide enough. I don't trust this part, so I hooked it up to a chair, as you can see. And it's just an old antique child's chair that's hooked up there. And then the cord we have away from high traffic areas. Now this is in here just as an example. Remember I said it's in the mudroom where people are not going to be walking back and forth and knocking the cord over at all, so it's stable down there. The main thing is use common sense, guys. This is super hot. If it touches the wrong thing, it can catch it on fire. So be cautious, use common sense, put it where you think it's going to be safe. If you're outside, you can like nail it to a board where it won't move and hang over. You've seen that in some of my other videos about the Cornish cross. We actually had them outside and then we kind of nailed them in where they couldn't move and they kind of hanged over the chicks, and so that's something you can do. And you got to have a heat lamp. So like I said, you can find them easy at Tractor Supply. They're going to show you exactly what you need, or at the feed store. Hey guys, so as you can see, I look totally different than the beginning of this video, and that's because I had to go help the hubby. He went and got the tractor and hooked up. It's called an auger, but it really is just a huge like post hole digger. Okay, that digs deep holes in the ground. And I had to help him go do that because it was really important, and the reason it's important is it's all for these guys. So it is a whole plan that we are doing to incorporate these Orpingtons into our permaculture orchard / composting system. So it's a whole area that's all going to work together where these guys are going to help our orchard and help us compost. And we're going to feed our guys from our orchard and the compost. And the compost is going to feed us with nutrients that will then feed us through us growing vegetables and fruit trees that will then go to feed them. So you see how it's all connected. Those 3 things are connected to each other in several ways. And I could have lied and I could have come back in and got redressed and looked just like I did before. But then I thought, well, that's very kind of untruthful. And I want to be realistic that this is hard work sometimes. When you're building a homestead and you're trying to make things better and work really hard like we are right now, you go out and I'm super nasty and hot and sweaty. And I feel like bugs just ate my face off, to be truthful, because I just feel like I'm just itching everywhere and I had bugs steady attacking me. And we have what are called deer flies. I don't know if you have that in your area, but they're from the devil and they're awful. And if you have any solution for deer flies for us, please comment below because I would love to hear them. I've been kind of curious of whether to set out traps for them or do what. But they're awful. They attack us. They attack the dogs. And so I was doing that while helping him. It's very humid outside because it stormed all this morning. So, of course, when the sun came out, it's hot. But needless to say, I just wanted to show you a realistic part of homesteading. And if that's something that you're really interested in, that usually follows chickens, just to warn you, chickens is what they call the gateway to homesteading. It's because that's usually where people start. And once they understand that raising chickens actually isn't that hard, and after you start learning stuff, you kind of get into other things. And so it kind of leads us to what we're doing now. So I started out with chickens when I first moved to this place. Hello, Jared. He's like, please, baby. All right, you're video bombing me. You're bombing me. All right. Well, that's a wrap, guys. I hope this helped you, and I hope that you learned something from it. And it helped you out in setting up a brooder and things to think about and things not to do and things to do. And if you're interested in this project that we got going on to see how that's going to work, just continue to follow us. So subscribe, hit that subscribe button, and that way you'll be alerted every time there's a new video. Click the thumbs up for us. That would really help out. Comment. If you have questions or if you have any suggestions, we would love to hear those positive comments and suggestions. And just thank you for, watching along. And you can also check out our website, wildwoodwonder.com, and see what we have going on there. So thanks, guys.